Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. I'm Brian, Mr. Smith, and welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm glad you found me. If you're coming back for more, thank you. I appreciate it. So, on my channel, we do a lot of different things, but mostly we take off our glasses so that way you don't have the glare going into the from the window. Mostly Tuesdays, do 3 videos a week. Tuesdays we do social videos, topics, whatever thoughts, things I personally want to talk about, or if there's something you guys ever want to talk about, feel free to leave me a comment either on those videos or on any of my videos, and it's something we can talk about. I'm open to pretty much everything, as long as it's clean, family oriented. But I keep it clean. The comments, especially. I have all age groups as subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. You can even hit the notification bell if that's something you want to know when my videos come out. Thumbs up, thumbs downs are always appreciated, but not necessary. That being said, like I said, when it comes to Tuesday's topics, if there's something you want me to talk about or you want to talk about, we can have a discussion on Facebook or Instagram. Well, preferably Facebook. Instagram, we don't really have discussions on. But you can leave me comments there too. Mr. Smith's Kitchen on Instagram. Comments on Facebook is Brian's Aquatics. So that being said, Wednesdays we cook dinner. For the most part. And Thursdays we bake. And throughout the week we also do some canning. A little bit of woodworking here and there. Still look at my fish every once in a while. I don't do a whole lot with the fish anymore yet, but that's coming in about another year. Hopefully get back into that. But Thursdays, like I said, we bake. We do some canning. We do some gardening. We do some woodworking. Anything that, I might be able to teach you something, or you might learn something or get some knowledge out of. It is basically the basis of my channel. Now, I do have a synopsis. It's like, I did a year or so ago, and it still holds true. This is for, future generations of my family or anybody that wants to maybe get to know me a little better, learn something along the way. So anyhow, that being said, it's Thursday, so we're going to bake. Today I'm going to try a new recipe, as we do many times. I try recipes for the first time with you. We learn together. I think that's the best way to do it. That way we can either, hit our goal together, or we fail and try again together. As a team. We're a team, so to speak. All right. So anyhow, today we're going to do a salted chocolate caramel cookie. Okay, and what this is, it's a very chocolatey cookie with caramel in the center, and then we're going to sprinkle the top of it with a sea salt and bake them and hopefully enjoy them. I got this recipe from Better Homes and Gardens. Yes, I do read a lot of what would, I guess, be considered women's magazines. Country Living, Southern Living, Better Homes and Gardens. We have 4 or 5 different magazines around here that Chris subscribed to that I read. Why do I read them? There's always some cool stuff in there. I like to help decorate the house. Me and Chris have very similar tastes in that. So, some of the stuff they show in there either gives me good woodworking ideas or something we like that we might want to see in the house. Plus, they have some of the best recipes. I take my recipes from any place I can get them. Variety is the spice of life, and on this channel, we definitely have a variety of different meals and baked goods. So, let's start off by talking about some tools you may need, okay, to do these with. I'll go through it quick. This video may be kind of long, and I apologize in advance, but I want you to get the benefit of every step. I don't want to leave nothing out. Leave anything out. Nothing's bad grammar. Leave anything out on it. So, tools you will need. Now, you won't need measuring cups if you have a scale. Scales are important. And here's how important they are. Measuring cups cost about the same price as a scale. And scales are accurate. So get a scale. They're like 15, 20 bucks. Measuring cups, if you buy good ones, are right around 15, 20 bucks. So it balances out. I literally poured all these ingredients out with a scale and this measuring spoon right here. That was it. That was all I needed. So, boom, time saving. And you won't need nearly these prep bowls, so I won't even go over that. All right, so you need a scale. You're going to probably need either, well, you will need, I'm going to use my stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, that's okay. They're expensive. They're like $350 at the moment, at the taping of this video, $350. You can use a hand mixer. They're like $20-30. Or you can, I mean, really use a whisk if you want, and a spatula. But that could be kind of a time-consuming process that way. So I'd recommend either using a stand mixer or a hand mixer for this. And that's pretty much it. You'll need a couple bowls, couple, 2, 3 good mixing bowls. You know, whatever you have laying around, just to be able to pour like your dry ingredients into, then your wet ingredients into to mix. So at minimum, I have this bowl here for my dry, and then I will have my mixer bowl for my wet, and to be able to combine everything together. What you will need ingredient-wise, so that's pretty much all you're going to need for tools. You know, you'll need a whisk and a rubber spatula too, at minimum. You will need, I will give you these measurements in cups and grams, so that way when you do get your scale, you can use it to do your grams. You will need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, which I have in this mixing bowl right here, and that's 250 grams. You will need 1 1/3 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. All right, and that's 202 grams. Now, when it comes to cocoa powder and and chocolates and stuff like that, use what you like in yours. Okay, so it just calls for unsweetened cocoa powder. I'm using a Dutch processed cocoa powder. Okay, it's not cocoa powder, by the way. It has an A on the end. So I'm using a Dutch processed one. That's what I prefer. It has a bitter taste to it, I think. But if you don't like that, don't run with it. Use what you like. It could be Toll House. It could be, I mean, whatever, But you want an unsweetened one. You want 2 teaspoons or 8 grams of baking soda. You're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon or 1 gram of kosher salt. If you don't have kosher salt, that's fine. Table salt works too. And you're good with that. That is your dry ingredients right there. Okay, now your wet ingredients are as follows. You will need 1 cup, which is 230 grams of unsalted butter. Okay? Now, if you use salted butter and you don't use unsalted butter, just leave out the salt. Okay? It'll be way too salty with the sea salt on top of it, plus salted butter, plus the 1/4 teaspoon of salt. But try to use unsalted butter. Any brand you like works. Flavor's good, and you can control your salt level in it. Now, that's 230 grams or 1 cup or 2 sticks. Each stick of butter, when you buy sticks of butter, is a 1/2 cup. The next thing you will need is a 1/2 cup or 100 grams of just plain old granulated sugar, stuff you'd put in your coffee or put over your cereal. Just sugar, nothing special. The next thing you will need is 1 1/2 cups or 292 grams of packed brown sugar. What is packed? Packed means that as you scoop it up in your measuring cup, you're pushing it down. All right, see how that just went down and stayed down? That's packed. Okay, now, if you use your scale, you don't have to worry about packing it, and it'll be 292 grams. I'm really pushing the scale thing, because scales are important. They create consistency. The next thing you will need is, now your butter, room temperature. I forgot to mention that. You want that at room temperature. Let it sit out for about a 1/2 hour, and your butter is probably going to need a friend. So you're going to take 2 large eggs, right there at 50 grams a piece or 100 grams-ish. Eggs, even though they say 50 grams a piece on the carton, I have found sometimes they're 48, sometimes they're 52, but I mean, they're right around 50 grams. So you want those also at room temperature. So now your butter has a friend warming up. Eggs, like you're starting a little partial farm here. The next thing you will need is some vanilla. Use a pure vanilla extract, if that's available to you, which doesn't look like you're going to be able to see it in there, but it's in there. And you'll need 2 teaspoons of that, 8 grams. Now, if you don't have, and or because vanilla can be pricey, if you have to use like a fake vanilla, it's okay. The flavor is just not as hopping. It's not as full. But use what you have available. I promise. It'll work. Next thing you'll need is a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Okay. Now, when it comes to buttermilk, you can't buy just little things of buttermilk. At least I've never seen them in a store. So we buy powdered buttermilk and just make it as we go. You can also use regular whole milk and just put a little bit of lemon juice in it, and that will cause it to sour, which is what buttermilk is. And you got fake buttermilk that way. But I prefer the powder. Like I said, it goes a lot further, and I don't have to keep buying like $8 billion jugs of buttermilk. The next thing you will need is 12 ounces or 3 of the blocks. Well, 12 ounces of, because you can buy rounds too or whatever, but of chocolate. Okay, that's the baking chocolate. Use what chocolate you like. This, it calls for bittersweet chocolate, and you want it chopped up, just like so, chopped up. Now, in this bowl is not all bittersweet chocolate. I didn't have enough, and to be quite honest with you, our family doesn't care for a truly bittersweet chocolate. I think between, even though this has got caramel in it, or caramel, depending on where you live, between the Dutch processed cocoa and the bittersweet chocolate, I think that would be a lot of bitter, because there's not a whole lot of sugar in this. It's reliant solely on the caramel. So we'll see. So I used essentially 8 ounces of semi-sweet and 4 ounces of bittersweet of the chopped up chocolate. The next thing you will need, and here's this is just what makes, I think, in my mind's eye, awesome, is at right around 36, because it's going to make right around 36 cookies according to the directions. Like I said, I've never made this before, so we don't know. But it calls for 36 soft caramels, okay? And it would be just the caramels you buy in the wrappers that are soft and pliable, because we're going to smush them down and make them into 3/4 inch round balls. Whatever brand you like, these are Werther's in this case, but whatever brand of caramels you like, that's what you need to get. All right, so that, and on the very last thing, just because we're going to top it off with it, sea salt. If you can find the flakes, great. If not, just regular, a coarse, larger chunk sea salt, because we're just going to sprinkle that on top of the cookie before we bake it. It's a topper, it's an accent, so you don't need a lot of it. And I'm thinking I'm going to try a dozen of them without the sea salt, and just try the chocolate and caramel to see how they work. I want to play with this a little bit and see where we go. All right. Well, let me get some counter space cleared off here, because right now I've got like 18 ingredients, and get the mixer over here, and we will start making some cookies. All right. Give me just 1 second. Okay, guys, got everything situated here. First thing we're going to do, we're going to mix some dry ingredients. All right, so we're going to take our 2 cups of flour. We're going to add in our 1 1/3 cup of cocoa powder, and try not to put it in my face. And then we're going to add in our 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and we're going to add in our 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just like so. All right, then we're going to take our whisk. This is why we need the whisk. And we're going to just mix this all together. All right, you want to incorporate it really well. I'll show you what it looks like here as soon as we get it mixed together. It'll go from a dark chocolate look to a light chocolate look. But the important thing is you want to get it mixed together well. You don't want chunks of the baking soda or the salt in there. Inevitably, when I was using a large flake kosher salt, this is a fine. If you can't find a fine grade kosher salt at your store, it's okay. Buy the regular kosher salt and smash it up. You can actually break it up in your fingers. Did that for a long time. Or smash it up with a hammer, or if you have a pedestal, the stone and bowl to crush it up in. I have one. I just can't think of what it's called. You can use that. We do up a bunch at a time. That way we have it readily available. It's kind of like fine sugar. We just spin it up in our little processor, and it turns the regular sugar into a fine sugar. Some recipes call for that. All right, so that's what we should look like right there. We should go from the dark chocolate look to a nice light chocolate look. That means we got it all, and I don't see any white in there at all. So that way we know we got it mixed up good. All right, now all we got to do, set this aside. Okay, because we don't need it yet. But that's the first thing we want to do, is get that all mixed up. Next thing we're going to do is get your hand mixer out or get your stand mixer. Like I said, you could use a whisk with this, but man, it would take a long time because we got to cream some butter and sugar together. So I recommend using a hand mixer. Now, I haven't plugged it in yet. There's a reason for that. I'm plugging it in now. It's a, we'll call it just life experience. When you have children, they like to come in the kitchen sometime. Granted, nobody's home right now. Everybody's at school. But when you have children, they like to come in. Especially Abby being little, they like to press buttons and pull knobs and things like that. And if this is down and say there's flour in there and somebody hits the on switch, everywhere, or this is sitting up like this, and Abby were to come by and hit the power button, she could hurt herself, or you could hurt yourself, or she could hurt you, or somebody could hurt you. So I wait to the very last minute to plug in my equipment. But we got it plugged in. First thing we want to add in here is going to be our 1 cup of butter. We're going to put that in. Now, I cut those into chunks. The reason why I cut it into chunks was so it would warm up quicker. Because remember, we want our butter at room temperature. Say your butter isn't completely room temperature. It's okay. As it spins in here, it's going to warm up. It's going to become room temperature. Next thing we're going to put in here is our sugars. We're going to put our 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar in there. And we're going to put our 1 1/3 cup, 1.5 cup of brown sugar in there. Packed brown sugar. That's important. And you want to pay attention to that. If it doesn't say packed in the recipe, chances are good it's a packed brown sugar. Most of the time, if it's not a packed brown sugar and it's just a loose brown sugar, it will say so because the norm is packed. Okay, that's the normal. Loose is not normal in baking. All right, so we're going to put those in there. Put that down, lock it in place, and I'm going to run this on medium speed until everything is combined and it looks light and fluffy. Okay, let me show you real quick what we look like at the moment. There's where we are at the moment, and I'm going to go ahead, and it may take a couple minutes on medium speed, medium high, but it's going to cream everything and turn light and fluffy. So let me go ahead and get this started, and when I come back, I'll show you what it looks like, and we'll move on to the next set of ingredients. Okay, we've got our beaten up. Now, one thing I want to mention is, every once in a while, you want to stop and scrape down the sides of your bowl. Make sure you're getting everything incorporated. Even if you're using a hand mixer, you still want to stop and give it a look while you're mixing, just to make sure. Get your spatula, your rubber spatula out, and give her a once over, and then that way you are in good shape. Let me get this off of here, and I'll give you a show of what it should look like. All right, put that back in there. See how we're light and fluffy. We're creamy. We're not butter and granules anymore. That's kind of what you're looking for. All right. And like I said, a couple minutes in the mixer. Medium high. You want to get those good and incorporated. I would say smooth, but it's still sugar, so it's going to be grainy, but smooth and incorporated, light and fluffy. That's what we're looking for. So the next step, we're just going to go ahead and turn it back on, and we're going to add our eggs, and we're going to do that one at a time. Yeah, put one egg in, we'll get it incorporated real good, and then we'll go ahead and dump the other egg in, just like so. Alright, once that's incorporated, good, we will stop. We will scrape down the sides of our bowls, make sure we're really incorporated good. Most stand mixers, when you use them, the very bottom of the bowl it can be a dead spot where it doesn't always mix everything up, and that's a great hiding place for flour, sugar, baking soda, you know, anything you can think of. So we got that mixed up. Next ingredient is our vanilla. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Try not to put the bowl into the mixer. That's important. And then we'll combine that. All right, got that nice and combined. Now see how that egg made this a lot creamier. Okay, that means we're in good shape. Yeah. Basically, if it looks like that, see how it's a little lighter, fluffier, you know, creamy, that's kind of what you're looking for. You know, if you're at that point, you're in good shape. And once again, like I said, we want to, you know, make sure we get everything scraped off, and you know, we want to make sure everything's mixed up real good. Like I said, you just saw me, you know, hit the sides of the bowl again. That's important. You know, now I have found with baking, you don't want to rush things. And yes, my counter's clean before anybody comments. I always wash my hands when I bake or cook, and I always make sure my counter is clean. Those are important things. You know, in theory, now this is just theory, and I'm sure there's somebody from the health department that would just scream at me for saying this. You're putting it in a 350 degree oven, and we're going to put them in there for about 10 minutes. That's enough time, realistically, to kill pretty much everything. So, but cleanliness is a good thing, and counters get wiped down regularly. I keep my kitchen as clean as a professionally run restaurant kitchen. I work in a restaurant. I know the importance of that. Anyhow, that being said, next thing we need to do, we need our buttermilk, our 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Set that over there. And we need our dry ingredients that we mix together. Here's how we're going to work this. Some cookie recipes, you just dump all the dry ingredients in and go. This one is more like we're making a cake. And I don't have an answer as to why, but this is what the directions say, so we're going to follow the directions and be good listeners, right? Or something like that. So we're going to put half our dry mix in there, like such. All right, got half of our dry mix in there. And then we're going to mix this in. Now, word of caution, not that I, of course, ever done this. When you start your mixer up, or your hand mixer up, do it on low speed. If you don't do it on low speed in the beginning, everything we just put in here is going to end up on your counters and in your face. Flours and cocoa powders are very light and have a tendency to want to travel up. So, we're going to put this on low. We're going to combine it. See how it poofed even on low? Well, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I can see it in here. And then after you get it started, yeah, see? There we go. Now I know you can see that one. After we get it started, get it going, we're going to take half of our 1/4 cup of buttermilk, about half of it, and we're going to pour it in there, okay? And we're going to let that all combine in. This is almost like we're making a fancy brownie, just in texture. If you've made brownie mixes before, like even from a box, this is pretty much what we're into. Yeah, we got that. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to stop. We're going to scrape down our sides. All right, like I said, that side scraping thing is important. Can't stress it enough. Then we will take the remaining of our cocoa powder, or our dry mix, put it in. Some over on this side too, so we're not all on the same side. Put that in there. And I see a little bit of white in there, which means I got something not quite mixed. When we spatula that, that's all right. Just got it mixed up. We're in good shape. We'll set our dry to the side. We're going to start it back up again. We're going to do it on low. That way we get it incorporated without making too much of a dust cloud. Like I said, I don't know if you can quite see it on film, but there is this like small haze of cocoa floating in the air. Alright, now we got that mixed up a little bit. We'll put the other half of our buttermilk in there. Alright, we got her mixed. We'll go ahead and get that out. Oh yeah, that is one amazingly thick cookie dough. That's awesome. That's the way a cookie dough should be. Get all of this off of the paddle there. Now, if you decide to buy a stand mixer, like I said, they're not cheap, but they are well worth it if you plan on doing any kind of baking. It's a lifesaver. And if you buy one, make sure you buy a good rated one. And I mean, it's a lifetime investment. You know, it's one of those things that you could potentially hand down to your kids, that they could hand down to their kids. I know with KitchenAid, there are people out there with mixers that their grandparents own. But when you buy one, make sure it has all the attachments. Make sure it has the paddle attachment, which is a majority of what we use for baking. But you'll also have a whisk attachment to it. And you would use that to do things like whipped toppings and meringues, and then a bread hook attachment. You can usually, if you buy one with all of that in it, it's a little cheaper than buying one with, say, just the paddle attachment and then trying to get the whisk and the dough hook separately. Those can get a little pricey. So, look around, see what you can find. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but we've had this KitchenAid for quite a while now, and I mean, we've put it through its trials, and it's held strong. And I know from what I've seen in testing, they make like close to the best one ever. There are a couple that go with it. All right, so we're done with the mixer. We're going to unplug it. We're going to get in here with our spatula and make sure we got everything nice and combined. Nice and combined. This is a heavy dough, which is good. I mean, you want a heavy dough. You want it to be able to ball it up and all that. Now, the last thing we need to put in here at the moment is our chopped up chocolate. And you want it roughly chopped. It doesn't have to be fine chopped slivers. I mean, it can be fine chopped slivers. But I think what we're doing is giving it that kind of goo factor when they bake. So we're going to fold these in. At least that's what the directions say, is to fold it in. got them folded in. And everything. Grab a paper towel real quick. Get this wiped off. Because the next step that we have is practicing patience. Yeah, and that's the important one, I suppose. In 1 second there, and I'll show you where we're at. All right, there is our basically triple chocolate cookie dough. All right, we got that made. Let's talk for a second. Because the next part, like I said, I mean, these cookies, they're not real intense as far as you making them, from what I've read. Like I said, never made these, so I don't know. But I'm basing it on experience. We have gotten 60% of the cookie done. And they taste really good. Now, I don't recommend you eating raw dough. It does have raw eggs in it, which can contain salmonella and can make you sick. That being said, I've been eating cookie dough for a long time, never quite gotten sick. But don't do it at home. Next thing we need to do is put some saran wrap over this, or cover it. If you have a lid, awesome. And we need to let this sit in the refrigerator for a minimum of 30 minutes. We want that to get good and firm, okay? And then when we come back, we'll start assembling cookies, okay? So I will see you here in like a nanosecond for you and about 30 minutes for me. All right, see you shortly. Guys, so we let our cookie dough chill for 30 minutes in the fridge. So the next thing we're going to do is, let me bring it down here so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, there we are. Excellent, beautiful. Is you want to measure these out, and this is according to the directions, into 2 tablespoon balls. Now, I don't have, it didn't give a weight, but I know my cookie scoop is about 1 tablespoon. So I've been just taking them, and I figured out that it's about 45 grams on your scale. So if you have a scale, which I highly recommend you get one, you weigh them out 45 grams, and then we're just simply, for the moment, going to stick them on a tray. Because then once we get these done, we're going to move on to the next step, which is dealing with the caramels that we're going to wrap around, put inside these cookies. Yeah, so that way it has a caramel center, which will be absolutely amazing. That's a little much. So we're just going to take these. You don't necessarily, it says to put them into balls, and I mean, you want to kind of put them in the ball like such. And you should get, according to the recipe, about 45 of these. And might I recommend you have a damp towel nearby to, clean the chocolate off your hands. Or eventually, I mean, not that I'm against having it on my hands, but eventually you'll have it all over the place. So like I said, we're going to put these into 2 tablespoons worth if you have if you don't have a scale. But if you have a scale, it's about 45 grams. And then we're going to put them into balls, and we're just going to set them on the tray for the moment. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get these made up. And as soon as I get these made up, we'll talk about what we're going to do next. All right, we got at 45 grams, we got 35 of the cookies instead of 36. So maybe 42 grams a piece will get you 36 if that's what your heart desires. So now we got those all rolled into balls. The next step we got to do is put these in the fridge, and then we're going to play with caramel for a minute. So let's go ahead.
I'll be back.
I'll see you in a few. So we want to keep the cookie dough chilled because of all the butter and stuff in it. They'll be a mess if we don't. So we'll put those in the fridge while we're playing with the caramels. The thing we want to do with the caramels is unwrap them if they're wrapped. That's a good start. And now that I know we have 35 cookies, we need 35 caramels, which is good because I think there's 35 in here. We bought a big, like, giant bag of them, so we got plenty. And what we're going to do with these is we're going to take them and we're going to smush them into about 3/4 inch square, or 3/4 inch rounds. Now, if you can find round ones that are already 3/4 inch round, grab them. But we just want to smash them until they're about 3/4 inch. They don't have to be perfect circles by any means, but about yay big. You know, 3/4 inch. If you got a handy dandy measuring tape, which it just so happens I do, we can look at it and see, like, we'll just go from the 2-inch mark right here to the 3/4 inch mark, which is that line right there above my thumb. And we'll see we're at maybe a hair over 3/4 inch. So yeah, I mean, about that big. And what we're going to do is we're going to do about 35 of these and just set them on a plate. And as soon as we're done with those, we'll move on to the next step. Because the next step is putting these inside those chocolate balls, and then we'll be ready to bake. Now, while you're doing your rounds up, now would be a good time. We'll go ahead and preheat the oven. We're going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius. And that way we got it nice and warmed up for when we go ahead and start our cookies. If you don't want to do it now, which I am, because I want it to cycle a few times before we actually put the cookies in it. That way I know it's all good and evenly heated. That's important. You know, you never want to turn your oven on, just turn it on, and as soon as it beeps, put whatever it is you're putting in there. Because it may not be evenly heated. It may be only, there might be a cold spot in there somewhere. So you want it to, run through its 350 degree cycle a couple times. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get all 35 of these done up, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so here we go. We're on to the next step. I went ahead and I got all the caramels are flattened. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take one of our balls. We took it out of the fridge, and we're just going to flatten it out, okay, like such. So that way we got a nice flat surface. And then we're going to take a piece of the caramel that's stuck to the paper plate. We're going to put it in the center, just like such. And then we're just going to fold the edges over around it. And that way the caramel is in the center of the cookie. Just like such. And we'll pat it out and set it on a tray. Now, you're going to need 1 or 2 cookie sheets. That's just, or at least 2 cookie sheets. That's kind of a fact of life. So once we get these caramels in here, once again, flatten it out. Grab a caramel. Put it in the center, like such. And then we're just going to fold it in. We're going to cover that caramel so that way it's in the center. Once we get done with all these, all right, we're just going to stick them on a tray. It doesn't have to be separated or spaced or anything like that. We're going to put these back in the fridge. I know I told you a second ago to go ahead and preheat your oven. Wait. I actually had missed a step. Well, missed it in the ingredients, so sorry. We don't want to preheat our oven until we're done doing this part. Because what we're going to do is, once we get all these done and on the cookie sheet, like I'm doing now, we have to let these sit in the fridge for about 15 minutes. Okay, we want it to, you want these cookies to be cold when you put them in the oven. All right, is what it comes down to. So I'm going to go ahead and get all 35 of these done. And when I come back, I'll get all 35 of these cookies put into the caramels in them. Get them in the fridge, and then when I come back, we'll talk about the oven. All right? Back in 1 minute. Okay, so we let these, I got them all done, 35 of them, and I put them in the fridge, and I let them chill for about 15 minutes. You want to let them chill for about 15 to 30 minutes. It'll depend on the temperature of your kitchen, really, because these things do get kind of gooey as you go, so you want to work quickly getting the caramels into them. But it doesn't take long, so we're going to bake these probably a dozen at a time. You want to keep them 2 inches away from each other. So I got you want a parchment paper on your on your cookie sheet, remember you're dealing with caramel on the inside, it leaks out, it's going to be a mess. And you don't want it sticking to your pan. So I got my parchment paper on here. Now my parchment paper has little squares in it, and they happen to be 2 inches apart. So we'll go ahead and get these on here 2 inches apart, and we want to keep them away from the sides. That way we know we're in good shape. And like I said, I should be able to get 12 on here and do them a dozen at a time. Get these on here real quick. Alright, there is a dozen. And then we'll take the ones we didn't put on the cookie sheet yet, and we're going to stick these in the back in the fridge, so they'll stay cold. Alright, there is that. Now, let's talk about the oven for a second. So, while those were sitting in the fridge, for the last 15 minutes, we went ahead and we preheated our oven. 350 degrees, 180 degrees Celsius. We're going to bake these cookies for 10 to 12 minutes, and a lot of that will depend on your oven. Sorry, I felt like a cobweb on my face, and I'm standing here, and there wasn't there a second ago. Anyhow, so we're gonna bake these for about 10 to 12 minutes. It'll vary on your oven. You know, it might only be 8 minutes. It might be 13 minutes. 350 degrees in my oven may not be 350 degrees in your oven. We've talked about that before. So you want to kind of check them. One thing you want to do, start checking them at about 8 to 9 minutes. What you're looking for is they should start to get crisp around the edge, you know, and still be tender in the middle. Now, halfway through baking, at about the 4-minute mark, 5-minute mark, you want to take your pan and you want to rotate it 180 degrees, okay? So the front will become the back. That helps ensure even baking, okay? Most ovens have hot spots in them, so one side may be baking a little faster than the other side. So we want to make sure we get that done. All right, I am going to get these in the oven and get them baked, and when I come back, we'll talk about the cooling process. All right, I'll see you here in 1 millisecond. So one thing I did forget to mention, let me show you real quick before I put these in the oven, is we want to put our sea salt on there. It completely slipped my mind. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sprinkle that on there a little bit. Yeah, and how much you put on there, I guess, would depend on how much sea salt you like. So we'll get that on there real quick, and then we'll get them in the oven. That might have had a bit much on it, but we'll see. Get those on there. All right. Now we will put that in the oven and let them bake for 10 minutes. All right, see you here in just... Okay, so we got our cookies baked. When you take them out of the oven, you'll want to leave them on the rack or on the cookie sheet. Just place them on a rack, just like this one. Put the cookie sheet on the rack and just let them sit there for about 5 minutes. When that 5 minutes is up and they're cool enough to handle, at least with a spatula, we'll place them on the cookie sheet. So I've already got, that's the last of the 35 cookies, and underneath this is a lovely plate of cookies. So let's take a look at them. Here are the fruits of our labor right here. I think they look absolutely amazing myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to try one of these cookies and bring you up here so I can see your smiling face. There you are. Look at you. You look fabulous. All right. So let's see if we got any caramel in these bad boys. Oh, yeah. Right there we are. Excellent. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's give it a try. See how it tastes. Yeah. That is no, actually that's good. I think if I were to do, yeah, no, I don't know if I would, change a whole lot. Maybe use a all semi-sweet chocolate with the bars, but the flavor between the cocoa and the caramel and the semi-sweet I did put, man, you can just taste all of that, and it's soft on the inside. The caramel kept the inside of the cookie soft. The edges are nice and crisp. I mean, right there, I mean, that's, that's a good cookie. Yeah. 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 I don't think I'd change anything. The caramel really balances well. And you don't really taste a whole lot of the sea salt. I think it complements it nicely. I would keep it light on the sea salt though, because I can see where that would get overbearing quickly. Just a light sprinkling on it, hands down. But yeah, the blend of the chocolates and the caramel and the softness of that cookie is incredible. A little labor intensive. These cookies do take some time to make, but I think they are well worth the effort. I think the half hour in the fridge, everything just, it did well. Like I said, I don't know if this is, maybe I'm making cookies for the very first time ever cookie. But, I think once you've made some cookies, or, I mean, well, realistically, you could do this, but like I said, it's a little more labor intensive than, say, your standard chocolate chip cookie, between the crushing of the caramel and the, making of the batter, let it refrigerate and all that. I mean, there is some steps and processes to it, but I mean, in reality, you can do it. You can do it. All right. Well, try these cookies out. Let me know. Let me know if you try them. Leave me something in the comments down below. If you liked them, let me know. If you thought they stunk, let me know. Either way, just remember, keep your comments respectful. We do have people of all age groups, and we want to be respectful people. Remember, we're a community here, and we want to be respectful of each other. But that being said, please try these. Well worth the effort. I'll definitely be making these again. They are a good, solid recipe. All right. I'm going to go enjoy a plate of cookies and some milk. And till next week, I don't know what we're doing next week. But I'm sure we'll get into some fun shenanigans and adventures as always. Find something really cool to make. I may put out one more video this week. I'm getting ready to do up, now that I got these cookies done, I'm getting ready to start a batch of jalapeno relish. So, that being said, you may see a video this weekend on jalapeno relish. But anyhow, try the recipe. Let me know. I love you. I love you very much. Tell somebody else you love them and you love them very much. It's going to make their day a whole lot better, I promise. Get vaccinated and stay safe. I'll see you later.